Welcome back to 5-Minute Canvas, where we look at tips, tricks, and techniques for building a Canvas course. In our continuing exploration of tables, let's take some time to explore how tables can be used to arrange information on a page. I've got two tables down here that are expressly for this purpose, with two slightly different methods for how I created them. Let's look at the differences first. You'll notice that in one of the tables, the text is pushed more towards the top of the table, whereas in the bottom one, we see that it's vertically aligned in the center between the top and bottom borders. We also notice the position of the picture is a little bit different in terms of where it's positioned on the right side in both tables. That comes into play with how the tables were made. So let's examine how those tables are made so you can understand the two of them. One of those two methods is actually going to be simpler for general users than the other. Let's expand this out and scroll down so we can see the tables. As we look here, we might notice there is actually a third difference between the two tables. If you see here, there's this kind of dashed border on the inside of this table. It actually goes all the way around with a vertical border here. That is actually a function of how this table was made. We'll get to that in just a minute. Let's look at this top table first, because it's important to understand how is a picture added to text. That's part of why these designs were chosen. If I go ahead and insert another picture here at the end of that second line of text, I'm just going to pick a picture of the moon and put it in, we'll notice that the text has now shifted down. The reason why is the text and the picture are on the same horizontal row in the editor, and as a result, the row adjusts its height for the largest element, in this case the picture, which means it's making all this white dead space above and below the text because, well, there's the top and bottom of the image. I can get rid of that by going to the end of the line and hitting enter, but now I've got all this extra white space down below. And then getting it over to the right, I'm going to have to select the image and right align, but again, I still have all this extra white space. If I did not do that, if I did not move it to the next row and I right align, I could potentially move the text and the image over, or if I just right align the image moves over, but the top of the image is lined up with the top of the text. I still get all that white space. So the question becomes is how did I get this picture over here lined up with both rows without all that excess white space? And you might notice there is a little bit of white space that's due to the size of the image. What I actually have done here is I've edited the HTML code, and this is where it's going to make some users nervous because HTML code can be overwhelming if you're not experienced with coding at all, and it does take some time getting used to. What I've done is I've actually added some code to float the image on the right side to the right of the text and add some padding in order to space it where I want. That's why there's extra white space here instead of being right up against the border. Now the fact that I use the editor, that's going to make some of you nervous. So let's talk about the easier way to do it that avoids HTML altogether. And that is to use a concept called nested tables. In this case, what I've done is I've put a second table inside the first one. That's where that dashed border comes into play, because what I did is I changed the border width to 0 so we don't see those borders on the final page. Then what I can do is I can put the text in one side and the image on the other. Now, because of how the tables worked, what it did is it initially set all this text right in the middle vertically. There is white space above and below due to the size of the picture. And if I add another line of text, you'll see that it kind of shifts everything accordingly. And now it looks like the text kind of fills the space a bit more. Then I put the picture over here. Now initially that border starts closer to the center, and as you can see, dragging the border is kind of a little iffy. So what I like to do is I like to click on the cell and go into the cell properties and say, hey, I want this to take up 10%, and I can adjust this. If I do 20%, look at how it adjusts the position of that picture. So you can adjust those however you want. It's important to note one other thing. I've got this extra line here. If I go to the next line and I try to create another table, this is what's going to happen. It's going to look like the two tables are joined together. So understand that as you arrange stuff on a page using tables, if you have more than one table following each other, make sure you add an extra line in between them in order to separate those tables a bit. Try making a blank page so you can practice how to use tables to visually arrange information on a page, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to keep up with all of our content here at MythBadger Videos.